Today is March the 21st, 2016. My name is Tanya Finchum. I'm with Oklahoma State University, and today I am in Edmond, Oklahoma to speak with Avanell Forrester, and this is part of our Rosie the Riveter project, so thank you for having me today.
Thank you.
Let's begin with having you tell us when and where you were born.
Well, I was born 1918 in a little 3-room house. I had two sisters just older than me and one older brother than the twins.
And where were you born?
Oh, that was about 3 miles from Wanette, Oklahoma.
Okay. And what were the twins' names?
Zona Faye and Zola May.
A little bit of rhyme there. And then your brother was?
My older brother was named Virgil Jonaby.
Okay.
That was kind of an odd, funny name.
It is. And what did your parents do for a living?
We farmed. We had a big farm. And we all helped on the farm. We had cotton. We had to chop cotton, and then when it was ready, we had to pull, pick cotton.
Wow.
And
did you get paid?
well, yeah, when we got through, my dad, we had a catalog. We didn't go shopping like we do now. And we had a catalog. So he said, pick out the dress you want, and I wanted a red one, of course. And my sisters picked out a couple of, they got some pretty green ones. And I was kind of mad later because theirs were a little more expensive, a little better quality. But mine was red and I liked it. And the same way with, about that time they had a little oil boom through the country. And so my dad got 2 oil wells. And there was a creek running in our farm, and he sold water out of the creek to this, for the oil wells. And sometimes when the summer, it'd get kind of dry and the water wouldn't run on down, he'd have us take the hoe and with our hose we'd pull the sand back, and let the water run through, and he let us order a new dress when that was finished. And well, I grew up there in the country, and of course we had fruit trees and we had a big garden and we had a lot of good stuff. My mom was the best cook you ever saw. And am I doing all right?
You're doing just fine. What was the favorite thing she fixed that you liked?
Oh, she'd make blackberry cobbler. And one day Dad he was on school board, so he brought a man home for lunch, and she thought, oh, what'll I have? And she made a vinegar pie.
I've never had one of those.
Well, she did, and it was good.
She didn't work outside of the home, I take
Well, she did sometimes. She'd help us when we needed to get the cotton going, And
Would they let you out of school to help with the cotton?
Oh, no, we didn't do that.
Okay.
No, we went to school. A lot of kids did, but we didn't. We lived 1.25 miles from the schoolhouse, and they went through the 8th grade.
What was the name?
Boyer School. It was it went to the 8th grade.
1 room or 2 or?
1 room, and we had in the middle of it, a big pot-bellied stove, and the teacher would have us bring carrots, and this guy would bring potatoes, somebody else would bring something else. We'd put it all together and make soup for lunch for the whole school.
Sounds good. How would you get there?
We walked. And in those days we had snow that was real deep snows. We don't have those here now. but there was a lady named Miss Briggs. She had a whole bunch of kids. I think she had about 9. And anyway, we loved Miss Briggs. She lived about a quarter of a mile from the school. So when it snowed and we didn't want to get home, you know, she'd have us all come and she'd fix dinner and she'd have us sleeping someplace for the night. And
A teacher wouldn't do that today either, would they?
no. Well,
Would they have cake box where they would bring your box decorated?
we had
and-
pie suppers.
Okay.
Yeah, and my sisters were so cute. Both of them were so cute. And with my pug nose, I was always knew I was the ugly one, duckling. But anyway, the boys liked me, and so they would bid, and the boys would. Whenever the price of mine would be a little low, they'd run around and help me, and they'd build up, you know, and be sure that I got the prize for having the best pie. I used to play the piano a little bit when the teacher wasn't there. The lady wasn't there for church. We went to church in the schoolhouse.
What?
By ear, I don't know the notes.
You didn't have lessons?
Oh, no.
No?
But my mom had a push organ, you know, with your feet, you know, those old, and she could sing, and she sang alto, and that's what I sang alto. And my daughter now is the best alto singer. Her name is Carmen Miller. She lives across the street from me. And then I have a daughter that lives in Plano, Texas. Her name is Jonelle.
After you, okay.
Yeah, funny thing, when Jody, we call her Jody, when she was born, well, both of the grandmother's names was Emma. And her daddy's name was Joe. So, you know me, anyway, I named her Emma Jonelle. Well, she hates that name. Oh boy, they got us all in her name, but we call her Jody, and she is a wonderful gal. We love her.
So you have 2 daughters?
Yeah, and 1 son. Now he married this lady that had 2 little boys. He loved those little boys, and but it didn't last, and so he lives alone. He lives out here east of Edmond. He's building a house by himself, and it's a good-looking place too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's beautiful land out there with all the trees.
Well, let's back up a minute. When you ordered from the catalog, do you remember what catalog it was? Montgomery Ward?
Sears and Roebuck.
Sears and Roebuck.
And Montgomery Ward's had a catalog too.
Would you have to go to town to pick up the order, or would it come to your house? Would the mailman deliver, or?
I think they delivered it, yeah. I'm pretty sure they did. Man, I've been asleep since then, you know.
Well, describe the house that you grew up in.
Well, it was a 3-room. We had a living room. We had a bed in there, of course. Mom and Dad slept in the living room. And we had a dining room and a wood stove. And then we had a bed on the back. It was big. The rooms were kind of big. And of course we had 3 beds in the back room. I call it the back room.
For the 3 girls, or?
Well, there was 2 boys and 4 girls. There were 6 of us.
Okay, so on all the children slept in one room?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Well, so it was heated with wood?
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Did it have running water?
No, and it had an outhouse off out there. But we had a big orchard. We had all kinds of fruits, and Dad was really good to plant a big garden. We had sandy land, so anything would grow there, you know. And of course we canned, and wrapped apples and put them in the cellar, and they stayed good all winter, you know. And of course we had hogs, and we'd butcher one of those, you know, and make sausage, and we had a smokehouse, and we'd hang up the hams, and we had plenty to eat. A lot of people, you know, though in those days, if you didn't know how to manage, you know, I guess, but we never were hungry. And of course Mom sewed, and people said we looked better than any kids in the country. And a lot of it was from feed sacks, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And my twin sisters and me sang at different places. We'd have what they call singings through the country, you know, on different days. And finally we got on the radio up in Shawnee singing. They both sang soprano, and I sang alto.
Remember a good song or a favorite
well,
song?
they were church songs.
Church songs.
Oh, yeah.
Have a favorite?
Oh, well, I like them all, really. I don't know.
I'll Fly Away.
Oh, yeah, I love that. My mom loved it, too. She loved singing that song.
You want to sing a little? Do you want to sing a little?
Well, I tell you, I don't
have
sing
to.
much anymore.
Okay.
Have you heard it?
It's been a long time.
Some glad morning when this life is over, I'll fly away to a land with I'll fly away.
That's pretty good. Much better than I could do.
Oh.
Thank you.
But when we go, I belong to the Church of Christ.
Okay.
And I tell you, if you want to hear some good singing, I don't know, the people, you know, we don't have any stage and have different people to do different things, you know. Everybody has a songbook and everybody sings, and it is the most beautiful singing you've ever heard.
And you don't play by chords, you play by ear, so do you sing by that way too, or can you read music?
Oh yeah, yeah, we know, everybody knows that. Yeah.
So when you finished the 8th grade at the little school, what did you go to
One at high school.
High school, okay.
Yeah,
And what year did you graduate?
Well, I made it almost to the top, and then I got married.
So you didn't finish the 12th?
No. I've always been sorry I didn't.
Well, that's okay. That was pretty common in those days too, wasn't it?
Yeah, Mom and Dad didn't push us, you know, or I don't know. It wasn't their fault that I quit, but.
That would have been giving Depression time.
Yeah.
Too.
And in Depression time, we had a book of stamps, and we couldn't buy tires and nylons and sugar. You had to have so many stamps for so much sugar and coffee. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But we made it through. But Dad was going to have to go to the Army, and the war was over in 1918.
World War I,
He was getting ready to go when it was over, so he didn't have to go. That's when I was born, April the 7th, 1918.
Well, did he have brothers that had to go?
Well, I'm not sure if they went. He had 3 brothers.
Older than him or younger?
Well, now, I think he was kind of in the middle of them.
So he may have had one or two.
One of them, he looked just like Sam Walton, you know, with the Walmart,
Mm-hmm.
you know, started Walmart. He looks just like him. My dad did. But we never found out. We don't know if we were in that line, you know.
Maybe. Well, where was your parents from? Were they from
Arkansas. And yeah, And we thought, well, maybe we were in that line, but we don't know.
Well, what brought them to Oklahoma?
Well, I really don't know. but they were in Oklahoma when I was born, of course, and
Were your grandparents in Oklahoma too?
they were in Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Yeah.
Maybe they came for the land
Yeah.
or the oil.
Yeah, well, and do you know that it's the funniest thing, it's been a little while since I've had a little oil check, but all the years they keep coming, you know, we sold the house, of course, but we still have the royalty. So, but I'm the only one left now, so.
They kept the mineral rights.
And the last check I got, it was after I moved here. I've lived here about 6 years. It was $80, the last one I got. And I keep looking and thinking maybe there'll be some more, but, you know.
It's hard to keep up with too.
Yeah, right.
So how did you meet your husband?
Well, when school was out, this lady picked up all the girls in the country, and we went to Maud, where there was a little a school of a lady showing you how to do laundry, how to set the table, how to, you know, all this good stuff for girls. And we had a big dormitory, you know, we all slept in this. And so one night she had a little dance for us. So here comes these guys, you know, with their guitars and things. And there was one guy that played the bass fiddle, you know, that big thing. And so after it was over, well, some of them went home, and I was fooling around there, and he came and I was over by the window looking out, and he came up and he said, would you like to go see the moon? I said, I can see the moon from here. And so I didn't go see the moon that night, but anyway, he came back, so that was my husband. That was who that was.
And what was his name?
His name was Joe Forrester.
Joe Forrester, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you do for a date?
Well, we'd go to the show, you know. The shows were real cheap then. And
Where, what town? In Wanette or?
Wanette had, yeah.
Had a movie theater.
And of course it was Tom Mix, you know, and let me see, mostly Western stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody went to town on Saturday, and that's when they had the 10-cent shows, I think they were. So the kids went to the show while the parents shopped, and
So your dad or your mother would give you the dime to go?
yeah. Well, after we got our cotton down, I was going to tell you, we'd get over and help the neighbors, and they paid us a little, see. And we were all good workers, really.
Was that hard to pick cotton? I mean, I've never done it.
Well, it's hard on your back, you know, you're down here and you have to pick them over here and over here. You can pick one row, but we would pick 2 rows, you know, at a time. And 100 pounds a day was pretty good for us little kids. We were just kids, you know.
Well, what would you have on when you were doing that?
Well, we didn't believe in pants at that time, and we just had our dress. But Mom did let me wear my brother's overalls to the garden, to the field. And
Would you have on shoes?
well, yeah, we had shoes on.
Some people have said that they didn't. In the summertime especially, they wouldn't wear shoes.
Well, yeah, we were barefooted, of course, through the summer, you know.
Well, do you remember getting your first money? Actual in your hand?
Well, yeah, I think it was a quarter. And in town, they had this, in the window, I saw this tam. You know what tams are?
Mm-mm.
Well, they're just a little round cap. And this one was white with a little, it was Angora stuff. you know, for kind of fuzzy all over it. And a quarter was quite a bit. But anyway, when I don't know if I got a quarter all at the same time, but anyway, that's what they wanted. No, what they wanted 50 cents, I remember, for that. And my sisters fussed at me. They said, well, you're not going to spend all your money for that, are you? And I said, yeah, and I wanted it, and I got it. It was cute, just a little tam, you know, for your head. I still have a black one, and I wore it not long ago, and they laughed at me.
Sounds like you had a pretty good relationship with your sisters.
Oh yeah. We had little fights every once in a while, but we loved each other, and you know, it was a good family.
Well, how would you do bath time?
Huh?
How would you do bath time?
Well, we had a big wash tub that we washed clothes in. You know, we had a rub board, a scrub board they call it, a rub board. Which was it? A rub board, I think it was called. And that's the way we washed our clothes. And we had a line, and we hung them outside on the line. And so the one that we had to draw water out of the well, you know. So the one that drew the water got the first bath. And of course there was parties in the country about every night. So we'd get this tub and fill it full of water and get our baths, and then the next day we'd do the same, you know. We'd throw it out, and so we'd all, yeah, sometimes I was the last one to, but we didn't think anything about it, you know.
Well, how would you get it warm if it was?
Well, we set it out on the porch and let the sun warm it.
Okay. It worked.
It worked, yeah. Those were the good old days.
And your mother made your clothes, or most of them?
Oh, yeah.
Except the ones you ordered?
Yeah.
Would she make underwear too, and pajamas?
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm not sure. Oh, yeah, I know she did. Yeah. They were called bloomers.
Yeah.
And my first year in high school, my English teacher was called Miss Bloomers. She liked the boys, I remember that.
But did you have a favorite subject while you were in high school?
No, my dad didn't get much schooling, and in fact my mom did before they were married, and she taught him how to read and all. But when I'd have trouble with geometry or, you know, I could take it to my dad. He could figure that out, how he did it without the education. But he did. He was after we got through with the farm, he was a builder. And when he died, he was building a building for the Bluebirds. The Bluebirds were girls in, you know, like Boy Scouts in school.
Okay.
I have a little, he'll be 11 the 14th of next month. He is a Boy Scout.
Bluebirds, I haven't heard about those.
Yeah, they were Bluebirds, and there was, there was something else that was called for the girls. And I can't remember what they were called. Boy, this is taking me back.
That's okay. In high school, did you play any sports?
I played basketball.
You did?
Oh, yeah, and I had to keep my A's up to play on the main team, and I did because I loved to be on the main team. Yeah, I was good. I loved it, yeah.
What was the mascot? Was it the Wynette what?
Oh, let's see, what was it?
I can think of as Panthers or what?
I can't remember, you
What
know.
were the colors? What were your uniform colors?
You know, I can't remember that, but I remember I was pretty chesty, and my best friend named Charlotte Well, she was big. She and laughed. She had the biggest mouth. We had more fun. And you know, we had to wear those little middies, they call them, when we were playing basketball. And that was fun. Oh boy.
What position did you play?
Well, I made the goals, and I played what's called forward in the middle, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty good at it.
Would you go to other schools and play them?
Oh yeah. We'd get on the bus and go to Maud and to, I don't know, different ones all around. Yeah, oh yeah.
Were the courts inside?
Oh yeah.
Right, like they are now?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We didn't have basketball, the football, then, but they did have basketball.
Well, would the circus come through town?
Well, through our town, I don't remember that. I remember Bob Wells. You remember Bob Wells?
I've heard his name.
Oh boy, I was a dancer. And I tell you, one Saturday afternoon, they all came to town and played music in the back of a big truck. I remember that. A lot of people liked Bob Wells.
And you danced.
Yeah. And I was dating this fella named Glenn. He didn't have a car. And this little guy, little freckle-faced, red-headed guy had a car. Well, Glenn would have him to come and get me, you know, and take us places. I think he paid him. Anyway, one night, Glenn wanted to go skating. And I didn't skate around this, you know. It was over in Asher. And so he and I had to sit outside there. And while we were sitting out there waiting, we kept thinking, well, let's go. You've had enough, you know. And finally he said, they've got a Bob Wells dance over in Tulsa tomorrow night. Would you like to go? I said, I sure would. And the funny part, his name was Daryl something. And he lived on the other side of where Glenn lived. So every once in a while Glenn would see him go by, and when I finally saw Glenn, he said, I wondered where he was going down that way. But anyway, he beat Glenn's time because he was a cute little guy and real nice. And we didn't have pot and stuff like that then, you know, like they do now. And one time my sister and I had a date with a couple of guys. Am I talking too much?
You're doing great.
And they stopped at Asher. They picked us up and they stopped at Asher. And they were dying laughing. And I think they went in to get a bottle of something to drink. And boy, we didn't drink. Dad didn't, you know, we didn't have that at our house. And so we talked and we said so we had them take us back home because we didn't want to go with them and them drinking.
You raised right. So where did you go in Tulsa to the dance?
Well, it was a big place to dance somewhere in Tulsa, and right now I don't know just where it was.
Was it the Keen's Ballroom? Was it there then?
Some big ballroom, but I don't remember.
I just wondered. Keen's. It's about that time, I think.
It wasn't Tulsa. It was Seminole.
Okay.
Seminole. Yeah, I don't know why I said Tulsa. It was over that way. It wasn't Tulsa at all. It was Seminole.
Okay.
And that wasn't very far from where we were, you know.
So what year did you get married?
In 40.
40. So about the war was getting started about that time?
Yeah,
Did your husband have to serve?
Yeah, he had to go. And when he had to go, my brother had bought a house. He was going to get married. And he bought this house. And he said if we would come and live in it you know, and we didn't have to pay a lot for rent, just, you know, to take care of it till he got back and got married. He was in the Merchant Marines.
What was your... Go ahead.
And then my husband had to go, and my mom and dad was on the farm, of course, and they had 2 big black mares, you know, Dad farmed. And one night, lightning struck the tree that they were under, and it killed both of them. Oh. So when his team was killed, well, we talked them to get off the farm. We wanted them to come to town. So they did. They moved to Shawnee first, and then finally they moved up to Oklahoma City. And I forgot what I was going to tell you then. That one.
Well, when your husband had to go, which branch of the military did he go?
He was in the Army.
He was in the Army.
Yeah. And so they came up from Shawnee then. When he had to go, we lived in Oklahoma City, and right off of Classen. And that's where, on 40th Street is where the house was that my brother bought. I'm kind of nervous, I guess. Anyway, they came, and so they had this big plant making airplanes. It was called Douglas. So when we moved in the house, of course, up until that time, we didn't have any furniture. And so this house was sold with all the furniture in it. So we bought the furniture, and so about that time is when my husband had to go to the service. So I went to what is now called Tinker Field, but it was called Douglas then. And they made airplanes, you know. And so I made part of the left wing of the C-47 that carried the merchandise and stuff for the boys, you know.
How did you get that job?
Well, everybody was working at Douglas then, you know. It was pretty good pay, and I thought, well, I'll work until I get this furniture paid for, and then I'll quit. One day when the lead man came to bring our checks, well, oh, that place was noisy, you know, it was huge, and all the machinery and everything was, it was so loud you couldn't hear anything. And he came and he hugged me up and he said, "Where are we going tonight, babe?" And I looked around and I said, "We're not going anywhere tonight or any other night." And about that time they turned the switch, you know, and it got quiet. It was lunchtime. And everybody around heard part of what I said, and his face turned red. I remember that.
Well, did you have to take a test in order to get that position?
Well, we had to take tests, And the test, a nice lady I met, she and I were working together, and it was up on Broadway here in Oklahoma City. It was where we had to go to make tests. And after the first day out there, she didn't like it, and she didn't, after she'd gone through all these tests, and she went downtown and got her a job in an office. But I stuck with it. And you know, what we call these big, just a big frame that you put a skin on, they called it, and you riveted that together with somehow, I don't know how they did that. But anyway, I'd go get the skin and put on, and of course I was good with my rivet gun. And I got so good that when any of us got a rivet in there that wasn't just right, You know, if it was turned a little bit or something, we had to drill it out and put another one in. And so he gave me that job. So I felt kind of important. And but we'd rivet this skin on this, and then I had a track, and it rolled on down, and we had to wear steel-toed shoes. Because if you had your foot on the line and it went through, it cut your toe off. Oh.
They're pretty heavy. Are they pretty heavy, the steel toes?
Oh yeah,
They're
yeah.
heavy?
Well, not real heavy, but they were heavy enough that it protected your toes.
Did it smell funny in there too?
I don't remember that, but it seemed like it did. Kind of smelled like oil.
I think with all those guns going, it might smell.
Well, I don't remember about the guns.
Would you get dirty when you were working?
Yeah, we had to tie our hair up, you know, because if you were reaching over here and your hair got caught in the drill, you know. And I've got that picture, and my son wants it to put in his office, and I can't find it. It's, you know, where we got our hair tied up, and I kind of look like that picture with my arm up. You've seen that. Yeah.
Well, how did you learn to operate the rivet gun?
Well, they showed us how to do it, and
you got really good?
yeah. I was always kind of strong, you know, living in the country and doing farm work and all.
Well, were there very many men that worked around you?
Well, no, not too many. It was mostly women in my department. Of course, there's a lot of men out there. And my sisters worked there. One of them, two of them did. My younger sister worked in the office. And my older sister, they had her putting this glue on something, and you had to put it on your hands. And she looked at that man and she said, "I'm going to quit. I don't like this." Getting her hands in that glue. And he said, "Oh, no, don't quit." So he said, "I'll give you a better job." So he did. I forgot now what he gave her, but she liked it, and she worked on for a while. And my younger brother worked out there. My older brother died when he was 21. He was married and working in the oil field, and he got cold, and he was sick for quite a while, and finally turned into pneumonia, and he died. But they had a little boy. He was about 3 months old when my brother died, when Virgil died. And
Well, how long did you work at Douglas?
well, it seems like I was out there maybe about 2 years. And the funny thing, there was a couple that lived around the corner from where we lived. My sister, younger than I, that worked out there, lived with me when my mom and dad came up, you know, and was living in my brother's house. And this couple just lived around the corner, and they both worked out there. So we had a ride there and back. Of course, we paid them, but that's the only way we could have gotten there, you know.
And would you have to take your lunch, or was there a cafeteria?
Did we? I think we took our lunch. We took our lunch, yeah.
Save money.
Uh-huh.
Well, what would you do for fun after you've worked all day in the week? What would you do for fun?
Well, let's see, then, I don't know. We lived in Oklahoma City, and I think we just got our dinner and went to bed, I guess, and I waited till the next day. And there was swing shifts, and there was, and I remember working from 8 till, well, 8 hours. That'd be 5, wouldn't it?
You get
Yeah.
1 hour for lunch.
Yeah.
Would you get paid once a week or once a month? Or 2 weeks?
We got paid out there. I remember the lead man, he'd come by and give us a check. Seemed like it was maybe once a week. I don't know. I can't remember now.
And the main reason you went to work was to pay for the furniture?
Yeah, boy, I did too, and I paid for that.
Was it for patriotic duty?
Well, it was a job.
Yeah. Well, did you work up until your husband came home from the military?
Oh no, I quit a long time before then. He wasn't there long, no, I don't think. 3 or 4 years, I guess. I don't remember now just how long that was.
Well, do you remember anything about the day the war started? Like Pearl Harbor Day? Do you remember any of that?
Oh yeah, I remember that. Roosevelt was our president then, when that happened.
Do you remember where you heard it and how?
I'm trying to think. Seemed like I did. Later, there was a family that after my husband came back, we built a new house up in the Wildwood. That's out a little bit west of the zoo.
Okay.
A real nice addition. We built a big, nice house, and the people next door were at Pearl Harbor when it happened, and he was some big general or something, and she said that those Japs would fly so low and they'd laugh and said you could even see their teeth. They would just have their mouth wide open laughing, you know. And I thought to myself, well, how come you out looking at them when... But that's what she told me. And my brother-in-law was there at the time, but he wasn't hurt. He was down little ways in another division, and he was on his way to church when that happened. You know, it was Sunday morning when that happened. And he was fun to talk to and tell him about things. That was terrible how they did us. And now we're friends with them.
Things change.
I remember I got a job at the Willowalk Apartments, and the lady ahead of me there wouldn't lease anybody if they were Japanese or and after she quit, I was the manager there.
So after Douglas, you went to work somewhere else?
Yeah, at the Willowalk Apartments in Oklahoma City, yeah.
How long did you do that?
Oh, about 5 years.
Oh, that's a good time. Then after that?
Oh, well, to start with, back up, when my husband left for another something, I thought, what will I do? And I was looking at the ads, and ad for to sell, and I thought, oh, I don't want to sell anything. But anyway, I called, and this lady came out. She was way overweight, but she had the most beautiful smile. She was the sweetest lady, and she had a new car she had bought. And so I said, oh no, I don't want to sell. She said, oh, come on, go with me, and lived in Oklahoma City at that time. And so she brought me up here in Edmond, and it was Amway is what we were selling. Now that's it's a real good product, but it wasn't too well known. Paul Harvey hadn't gotten hold of it then, you know. He loved what did I say?
Amway.
Amway. And so I knocked doors, you know, and people were gone or they wouldn't open the door, and I wasn't making very much money. So I told my lady, I said, well, I'm going to have to do something else. And somebody said, well, go with Fuller Brush. Said, everybody knows what Fuller Brush is. So anyway, I got me a job with Fuller Brush, and a real nice lady. Oh, she and I palled around. We dated and went places. Anyway, she took me down on South 29th and Walker to start with. And she said, now you do that side and I'll do this side. And I said, oh, I don't know how to do you know, downtown. And so she's going. And I had more on my book than she did when we met at a certain place up there. And I had sold a comb to a bald-headed man. And boy, did they laugh at me. Oh boy, those days, I tell you. But anyway, I lasted at that for a while, made manager, and I had people working for me, you know. And some of them would work when I'd get with them and go out, and you know. So then I quit that job, and well, I hurt my back. I sold so many big cases of window cleaner, you know, and stuff that they use in what do you call it, downtown?
The office buildings?
Yeah.
Close enough.
Down in southwest Oklahoma City. What was that called? Well, anyway. Capitol Hill. There's Capitol Hill.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, my neighbor across the street had a drapery shop in her garage. And when I got my little kids off to school, when my husband left, my youngest daughter was 11, my son was 13. Is that right? Or maybe, I'm not sure about that. Anyway, they were going to Millwood School. It's about a mile. They had to walk, of course, like I did. Anyway, when they got off to school, well, I'd go over to my neighbor, and one day she handed me something to hem, and she saw that I hemmed real good, and she said, would you like to work for me? I said, oh no, I don't have to work. My husband's making good, and I don't. But anyway, I'd go back, and just to be, you know, she was my neighbor, and if you know, I finally got in with her, and we made drapes. I thought, well, I'll just sew long enough that I can make my own drapes, so I know how to do that. And I did that, and then we got to making drapes for the banks and big office buildings, and we were on Parade of Homes.
Wow.
Yeah, and so after she died, I kept it for a while. And then at that time, I was wanting to travel, and anyway, after so long, I gave that up. And then I got into insurance. I sold motor club insurance for a while. That was kind of fun. And I don't know, I was just doing selling after I found out I could sell, why. And then finally I took my training to be a home health aid nurse. That was my last time, a home health aid registered nurse. That was my last job. And funniest thing, my son friend said, I've got to get something with my mother, and my son told him, said, well, I bet my mother could do that. And I hadn't done it, you know. But anyway, I went over there, and they couldn't decide what they wanted to pay me. They wanted me to stay all night. She still worked in the office, but her son didn't want her to be alone at night. So, okay, I go and fix her dinner and sleep and take her to the office, and then I go home, you know. Next day, about dinner time, well, I go over and pick her up in the office and come back and fix her dinner, and she didn't know how to play dominoes. And man, before long she knew. And she loved it, and so that's what we did every night. But anyway, they paid me $5 an hour. And you know, that added up pretty fast because I wasn't doing anything but fixing her lunch, and then when she woke up, well, I'd fix her a little bite of breakfast and take her to work. And the only time, I was there about, I think that lasted about 3 years. And the only time that I had to get up at night was when she had fell and hurt her head, and it was bleeding. She hit her table or something. But her son happened to be out of town. I think he was in California at the time or something. And I was going to call the ambulance. She said, oh no, she didn't want her friends to know. And so I took her in my car to the emergency and got her sewed up.
Well, you've always worked, sounds like.
Oh, I worked, I did something, you know, I never sat around.
And people-oriented, sounds like, too. It was all people. It was people. You have good people skills.
Oh yeah,
If you're learning to.
I have lots of friends. And then, while I was at the gym, a lady came over and said, does anybody want to be a volunteer? So I raised my hand. So I went over to the Baptist hospital, and when I went in, a lady named Nancy looked at me and she said, I think you'd be good delivering the mail. And I said, okay. And that's what I did over there. I was there about, well, I worked for a while in Oklahoma City where I lived. I didn't live too far from Baptist then. And I continued after I moved here for till just, it's been about, I guess it's been about a year ago now. It's when I quit. Maybe not quite that long. And I could still do it, but I just, you know, it's quite a little drive from here back to the Baptist hospital. Mm-hmm. But I love doing the mail for the patients. I made a lot of friends.
Mm-hmm. And it all started with working at Douglas?
I guess.
Getting off the farm.
I guess that was my first job. That was, yeah, because I didn't work.
Besides picking cotton.
Yeah, I'm a cotton picker.
Well, when you were no, you probably left Douglas before the war was over. Then, if you didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And your husband was out before the war was over, too? Did he finish his duties?
Yeah, he came home. And when he did, then we bought a little house over in Crescent Hills. And he worked for, in the lumber yard, not far from our house. And then finally, he got another better job with something. And then we built a new house, like I told you, up in the Wildwood.
Using a GI loan, or?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did he do? Did
GI loan?
GI loan.
Uh-huh.
Did he use the GI Bill to go to college or anything?
No, but my son did. He enlisted. You know, he was torn up when his daddy left, and all. And when he got, I guess he was. He wasn't old enough to go. I think he must have fibbed. But anyway, when he came back, he wasn't through high school when he left. Mm-hmm. And when he came back, he finished and went to college here in Edmond.
Okay.
Yeah. My daughters went to Norman, and my granddaughter went to Norman. Now my youngest daughter lives across the street over here in this nice addition. And her daughter lives just around the corner, and she has this little boy that's going to be 11, the 14th of next month. And her husband left her, so she's alone.
No.
And she went to OU.
No OSU people.
Huh?
No OSU.
No.
Nope.
No. Well, my son went there. My son went there, in college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, we're against OSU. We're for OU. One time I went with some friends to OSU, and of course I had my red jacket on, and I was hollering for OU, and oh yeah, we're all for OU.
That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, did you ever think you'd make it to 98?
No, you know, I think I would have taken better care of myself. I don't know what I could have done. I always like to eat good things, and I try to eat right. And of course, I like to exercise, and I'm still going. I even, you know, And they laugh at me up there at the gym. A lot of them know my age, and and they'll come up and, boy, you're sure doing good. I wish I could live that long. And I don't know, it's just a number with me, you know.
When people ask what your secret is?
Yeah, and I tell them, you know, I told one day, I just try to do unto others before they do it to me.
Well, you said your sister lived to 96?
97.
97.
Yeah, she died at 97.
What about her twin?
She was over here not far in a rest home for a while.
Well, did the twin sister live that long too?
No, she died at 27. She had some kind of spells, we called it. She would just say, if she had a tickling in her hand, and a lot of times she'd just rub her hands, and if she could rub that out, well, she was all right. But if it ever got past her elbow, then it went all over, and she'd just fall, and her mouth would open, and oh, it was terrible. And Mom and Dad took her to every kind of doctor, and something said about epilepsy.
Epilepsy.
And I guess that's what it was. And yeah, she died when she was 27. She wasn't married.
Well, how long did your parents live?
My dad died at 76, and I took Mom in to live with me and the kids. I had the teenagers, you know, then, and she lived to be 80. She died the day before she would be 80. She died up here in Edmond in a hospital. She had finally gone. After a while, she fell and she broke her hip, and it was getting hard for me to lift her in the tub, and you know, and there was a little rest home just about a quarter of a mile from where I lived, and so she didn't want to go, and if it were to do over, I wouldn't take her. Oh, it hurts sometimes when I think about it. But one evening she had a real bad pain in her stomach, and they gave her a shot. And but anyway, the nurse said, "I believe I'll put her in the hospital." And she just lived a week up here in the hospital. I was with her when she died. And they had cancer, and my dad had cancer.
But that the children didn't.
No, none of us.
That's curious. And growing up, you had pork and chicken and...
Oh, yeah, we had lots of chickens. I'd get one and wring his head. I like that, you know. Wring his head off. I've seen my mom do it. Yeah.
And would she fry it or bake it?
Fry it. Oh, yeah, we've had fried chicken. That was one of the main meals. And you know, in those days, people would just come to see you, and they didn't call and tell you they were coming. But you know, and that's what we'd do if we decided to go see somebody. Well, we'd just go, and of course we always had a lot of fruit and potatoes and stuff, you know. And so, man, we'd get in there and cook dinner for them, and they would us too.
And that was the days when front porch sitting was a good thing. We'd sit out on the front porch.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We'd
talk old times.
What would you kids do for fun? What kind of games?
Well, we just run around in the yard, and I don't know, just hide and seek.
Well, when it was so hot in the summer, how would you stay cool?
Well, we didn't stay very cool. I remember sleeping outside a lot of times, yeah. And of course, we didn't have air conditioning, you know.
Have a pond on the farm to go swimming?
Well, yeah, we had a little creek that run through our farm, and yeah, there was places where we'd swim. Yeah. But where I learned to swim was at my aunt's. They lived in Fayetteville, Arkansas, Mom's sister. And so we'd go down there, and White River run close to their house. And it was so clear you could see the bottom everywhere, you know. And I was 8 years old when I learned how to swim in White River. I went down Snake River out in California one time in a kayak with a bunch of friends.
That must have been fun.
And Snake River, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen pictures.
Oh yeah, I've got lots of pictures.
So you've exercised all along.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's part of your secret.
Well, I love God, and I just tried to be a good girl all my life. So.
And you have a good sense of humor?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
One time I had this date with this guy. This friend of mine, well, she wasn't a friend till I knew her, till she came down. She had a whole bunch of kids, little kids. And she asked somebody, said, I need somebody to help. Someone said, well, there's a family that lives down here that's got some girls. So she came down one day and said, I'm looking for someone to help me with the kids and all. And of course she picked me. And so I went up, and for $3 a week, I lived there. I had the front bedroom. She had a big, pretty house, and she had a bathroom, you know, and running water. Okay, and so anyway, for $3 a week, you know, it added up. And let me think now, what was I going to tell you about that? It was funny. What was I going to tell you about that?
It was funny because I had asked about funny.
Yeah. So I take care of the kids, and I cooked the meals. I cleaned the house. She had a little store down the way where she had to be, and her husband worked in the oil field. Oh yeah, and this friend of his that worked with him one day asked me to go to the show, and so okay, and then we went to a ball game, and when we went to the ball game, well, we took my sister Zola, just older than me, you know, she was a twin then. Well, anyway. And so I was watching the game, and they were talking. And all the time they were talking, he was making a date with her. And he had to come through by my house to get her. And I was sitting on the porch swing one day, and I saw them go by. And I said, hey. And anytime anybody, if they don't want me, I don't want them. I didn't crack up about it. I just said, pooh. I'm acting silly.
Now let bygones be bygones, huh?
Oh boy, those were the days.
Well, did you have a victory garden during the war? A victory garden? A lot of people did.
A victory garden. Now what's that?
They would just planted it during the war. Some planted in their front yard, wherever they could get it, so they could have food, extra food.
Oh well.
Must not have if you didn't know what it was.
No, no. We had this big garden when I was a kid.
And she canned.
Oh yeah, we canned a lot of stuff.
Did the home demonstration ladies come out?
The jewel tea man would come by selling different things. And if Mom didn't have the money to pay for something like pie filling and different things he'd have, well, she'd give him a chicken for, they did that. They would take anything.
And it was called what kind of man?
It was called the Jewel Tea Man.
Jewel Tea. I've not heard that one.
Jewel Tea. It was the name of it had a big truck, and he had everything. He'd go through the country selling stuff. And he had the best coconut pie filling. Oh, it was good.
Well, how often would you get a new pair of shoes?
Huh?
How often would you get a new pair of shoes when you were little?
Well, when we needed it, I guess.
Well, your dad had extra money from the oil, and all of that, so
Oh,
it
well,
wasn't as
yeah,
hard.
that paid off pretty good, and he sold some royalty, and at that time $6,000 for an acre of land was a good buy, yeah, but that's what he sold for, and so he sold not very much, because no, we still had when there was, you know, we still have the royalty.
Did he start with 160 acres? Was
Yeah.
the farm 100?
No, I think we had 80 acres is
80.
our what we had. But it was a big place. We raised peanuts. We had a pecan tree down in the, it's kind of like a hill.
And you went to church in a wagon, or did he have?
Yeah, we went to church in the wagon at the schoolhouse.
Do you remember the first car?
Yeah, it cost $380 is what our first new car. We had a car before then. That was the Chevrolet. It had these isinglass curtains for the windows, you know. And I remember Mom's sister lived in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and that's where we'd like to go. And there were 6 of us kids, and Mom had, when she was young, her mom died, and she had lived with her grandma, and then she married, and she married her mom. No, her mom. It was her mom that married this man that had these 3 boys. So they were Mom's half brothers. Okay, and I remember one time, one or maybe 2 of them, we were all stuck in that Chevrolet. I remember Mom heating bricks. She'd get them real hot and wrap them up to keep her feet warm, because we didn't have any heat in that car, you know. And it was quite a little ways to Fayetteville, Arkansas from where we lived there. I think about 300 miles.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not that far, but anyway. Anyway, we were so cold, and it was snowing, and it was cold. But we were all stacked in this car, sitting on top of each other. And I remember Dad stopped and making a fire. He got out in this someplace. And then when we finally got to town, we stopped at a hotel, and I remember this lady was so sweet with us, because we were all, our hands were cold, you know, we were cold, and she had one of these, what I call pot-bellied stove, and it was warm in this big hotel. Well, it wasn't so big then, but anyway, and she made sure we all got around, got good and warm, and told us how to find my aunt's house. There was something out the other day, I thought, now I better make some tips, because to remember, because there was something I remembered that I was sure going to tell you, and now I can't remember. Okay.
Well, about what time would that have been, in the
Well, I was
30s, 40s? Probably 30s.
Oh, in the 30s. Oh, yeah,
30s,
that was in the 30s. See, or maybe 28 or something like that. Because, see, I was born in 18, so. And I remember it, but I was just a kid. I don't know if I was 8 years old at that time or what.
It would have been in the 20s then.
Yeah.
Yeah. But did they have quilting parties? Did your mother participate in quilting parties?
It was?
Quilting parties?
Oh,
Quilting
no.
bees?
Oh, yeah, and we had these things, we didn't do it on our laps, these things hanging down from the ceiling. And you could roll the quilt. It was, you know, how was that? anyway, we all got around it, and I remember I was just a kid, but those women were telling jokes, and of course I didn't know a thing, you know, and boy, I'd listen to. But anyway, that's where I learned to quilt. Uh-huh.
Piece by hand.
Yeah.
And quilt by hand.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Where would she get her fabric?
Well, anyway, we had fabric.
Did one
We had a little store in town
Did
that
it?
sold fabric.
And then Maud was the closest bigger town?
No, Juanette was a town that we shopped in. We were about 3.5 miles from there.
Well, was Maud bigger than Juanette?
Well, a little bit,
A
yeah.
little bit.
Maud was where I learned how to set the table, and where I learned how to do laundry and everything. That's where I met my husband.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was Maud.
Maud's on that county line, isn't it? Potawatomi County and Seminole County kind of rides, straddles the line there.
Yeah,
I remember that.
yeah. Where were you from? Were you?
Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'd like to dance?
Oh, yeah. Well, see, I didn't dance. My husband didn't dance. And so here I'm sitting here, and I cried till I had bags under my eyes, and I finally went and had that fixed. And so finally a friend said, let's go dancing. And of course I knew I'd have to sit on the line, I would, you know. But before I knew it, you know, I kind of got a little rhythm, and so before I knew it, I was dancing, man. And finally I met this man that had a few lessons. His wife died. And there used to be a place downtown called Kochi's. And I was at the Willowwalk Apartments at this time. And that's where I met this nice gal. She had a beauty shop in her garage. And I met her, and that's where we got really acquainted. And so she and I, it was one Sunday afternoon, we went to Kochi's. Okay, we danced with different ones, you know. And I was standing over by a pole somewhere, and at that time I had kind of little like red hair. It wasn't really red, it was just kind of. And anyway, this guy, he was older than me. He looked at me and he thought, oh, she won't dance with me. But anyway, I was sitting in the booth, and my friend was dancing, and I was sitting there. And he had been dancing, and he wasn't having any fun, so he started home. This guy, his name was Al. He looked over there and he said, do you want to dance? I said, I sure do. And do you know, he wouldn't turn me loose. After we danced around the first time, I like to dance fast. I don't like this slow stuff. And he liked to dance fast. And here we're going like tie a yellow ribbon around the old oak tree, you know. And so when we got through, he said, would you do another one? I said, yeah. And so we did another one. And in a little bit, there was a place down on Walker, and when this place closed, this was just records here at Kochi's. And they were all going to this place down on, it was down south, quite a little ways south of town. I've forgotten what it was called. And so he asked me, well, 2 or 3 times he said, let's go get some coffee. I said, no. And so we kept dancing, and finally he'd say, wouldn't you like to go get something to eat? No. And finally the 3rd time I said, no, I'm with a friend. He said, we'll take her too. When we did. He took us to the nicest hotel way down south on Meridian. A real nice place. And so we had a sandwich. And then we went to this dance that everybody was going to. And anyway, it just got started, and he said, they're having lessons over here not far, tomorrow night, would you like to go? And I didn't know if I did or not, but after he told me a little bit about it and all, and I said, okay. And he never turned me loose. I went with him for 20 years. And to start with, he built these little airplanes. They're called, anyway, he and his brother had a little airport out kind of a little bit north on I-35. It was called, boy, that's been so long ago. And anyway, the first day he was going to take me up to show me around, you know. We got in the plane, and I think he had to start it. I think he had to turn the propeller.
Wow.
And it started, and here I'm sitting in here, and it started rolling. And here he was out there. And shoot, I didn't know how to stop an airplane. But what happened, we hit a tree. The wing hit a tree and stopped it. Otherwise, I'd have been up here by my... Oh, that was fun. And but we went quite a few places, and he was the nicest man. And the last time I saw him, his son, he lived with his son, and he called and said, Ava, can you come over? Said, Dad said he didn't know me. I said, what? He didn't know me. He said, can you come over? And I said, yeah. So I went over there, and he said, well, maybe y'all could go shopping. Dad needs a new belt. And so I took him, and we bought a belt, and he said I could lay down on this floor and just go to sleep. I said, are you sleeping? He said, yeah. And I said, well, let's go back to my house, and I'll fix lunch, and you can take a nap. And he did. I threw a pillow on the sofa, and he lay down and went to sleep. And I remember I had some potato salad, so I fried some bacon and made a BLT and had some potato salad. And we ate, and I was going to take him home because that day I'd promised to take my sister she had a little cancer on her leg, and I was going to take her to do that. So I had to take him back home. And so when I did, well, he was looking, and there was big used cars on this side going south. And he said, well, that was over here. And he was turned around, you know. I knew something wasn't just right, but anyway. So I took him on home and left, and I said, I'll come by in the morning and we'll go to breakfast. He got away, didn't drive much, and I was doing the driving. And so the next morning, his son called and said he had had a stroke, and he put him in the hospital. And the next morning, he called and told me that he had died.
Well,
And boy, did I miss him, you know.
I'd say you did.
Because I dated several guys, but most of them get a little, you know, and they want to go to bed, and so. But Al was, but he didn't want to get married. And I told him I wasn't going to bed, and that was when I first met him. You know, right off the bat, I said, because that, you know, usually I'd go with him for a little bit, and that was it. I went with the little doctor, and man, could he dance. Oh, I loved dancing with that doctor. But that didn't last long neither.
Mostly ballroom dancing, or?
Oh
or
yeah, we went out to, now what was that called? It was out in west of Oklahoma City. It was a big ballroom. Al Good played. Al Good was a real good orchestra. And there were several nice orchestras that came out there, but mostly Al Good. And Yeah, we did everything, all the, you know, the cha-cha and all that stuff. Yeah, we did it all. And I loved doing the Viennese waltz, but not the slow ones. I loved the fast. The Viennese waltz was really my favorite. And he'd whirl me around and
So you had to have pretty
I
dresses
wish
for this.
oh yeah, and I sewed then. And whenever I would make me a dress, and I like full skirts, I like full skirt, and I was the first one that started that, and then several of them caught on to it, but anyway, when I'd make a dress, and I'd make him a tie to match my dress.
Ah.
And a little hanky.
So do you watch Dancing with the Stars?
Oh yeah.
Do you watch it?
Yeah, but that's not, yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've seen a lot of changes in Oklahoma City and Edmond.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Were you in Oklahoma City when they had a streetcar?
Oh yeah. And they came just in a little ways from where I lived there on 40th from Clasham. Yeah, And I remember one day we were downtown and this little boy was selling these dogs, little white not Pekingese, but what was that? The cutest little white dog, and he wanted $10, and he only had one left, and he had to sell it because he was late catching the streetcar, and I had $6 in my pocket, was all I had, and my daughter just had a fit. She was about 3, I think. And she had a fit, and finally I bought that dog. And I know one time when she would be asleep, I'd carry her from the streetcar to the house and not wake her up. Oh yeah, that was fun.
And delivered milk with the milk bottles on the front porch?
Yeah, Borden's delivered for us. Yeah. Oh yeah, butter, milk, and he'd come and look in the refrigerator, and whatever I needed, he'd put it in there. Yeah.
Didn't lock your doors?
Huh?
You didn't lock your door?
Oh no. Back then you didn't have to lock the doors, you know. It's not like it is now. You never locked the doors. Nobody ever bothered or.
And the milkman just came in and
Yeah.
stocked it up.
Yeah.
Huh.
But since I moved up here, well, I make the pies. People fuss about how to make pie crust, and it's the easiest thing in the world to make pie. Do you make pie crust?
No.
You just put a little flour in here, a little salt, and put your shortening in there, and I have a little chopper thing that mixes it up, you know, and put a little water, cold water, and I put a little vinegar in it and put it in here and mix it up, and I use gloves. I put gloves on to get them, because I don't like stuff under my fingernail. And so I get it all together and roll it out like that and get it on the pie pan. There's nothing to it. I come in and turn my oven on to 450. And by the time the oven gets hot, I've got the crust made. So, and you know, and then I make. They like lemon. Everybody likes lemon, but I make coconut and I make a lot of cherry. And for Easter, not Easter, but the last holiday. What was that? The green. I made a
St. Patty's Day.
I made a key lime. Yeah.
That's my birthday.
But huh?
That's my birthday.
It is. Oh, well. Yeah, they all like mine. And I've had men to come up and say, "Boy, I like your pie crust."
Well, do you have a recipe for it, or you just measure it out?
Oh, I don't. I just dip it out. No. My mom let me when I was a little kid. When her cabinet had a thing that came out that she had the flour in it, and then it'd go back, you know, and so that's where she kept her flour. And then on top of it was the top is where she rolled out her pie crust. And I wasn't big enough to reach up there, so she'd give me a little stool. I had a little stool to stand up, and she'd let me finger in that pie crust.
Well, did she make biscuits too?
Oh, Mom made the best biscuits. She was really a good cook.
And can you make yours like hers?
No, I don't make biscuits. No, I don't make biscuits.
I don't know what the secret is. There's some secret.
Yeah, there's something about it. But, you know, we had then everybody took their lunch and ate it together, you know, and sometimes we'd have to put it on the ground in the park, you know, or someplace. Yeah, and the men all got around quick to get Mom's biscuits. Yeah. Yeah, she was so good at making all kinds of desserts. One day she was cooking a pot of beans and the fire was about to go out, you know, we had to have wood stove. How long's this gonna last?
You're doing good.
Huh?
We're almost done.
And anyway, she ran out with her apron and she picked up some chips out of a wood pile, you know. And she came back, and rather than taking the lid off the stove to put this in the stove, she took the lid off the bean pot, put the chips in the bean pot. And Dad was bringing somebody home. He was on school board, and he was always bringing some man home for lunch, you know. And she thought, oh, what am I going to do now? But she said she emptied it out and washed the beans off and finished cooking them, because that was what they were going to have, was beans. We ate a lot of beans back then.
Brown beans?
Brown beans, yeah, oh yeah.
I
still like them.
I do too. Do you have to shell them? Or how do you get brown beans?
Oh, they come in you know, you can buy them.
No, but when you grow them, was it like a
Oh, we
green-
didn't grow brown beans that you cooked like that,
I
you
wonder.
know. No, we had green beans and lima beans, but we, you know.
And she had to buy the brown beans.
Yeah, you bought brown beans, yeah.
Would you have things like squirrel and possum?
Yeah, we had squirrel. Mom wouldn't eat squirrel. Dad would, and I'd do what Dad did. I like my dad. Yeah, I'd eat squirrel. I don't know, it's when we didn't die back then. And I loved to go rabbit hunting. My brother would take me when the snow was on, you know, and you could see the rabbits and see the tracks. And I learned how to shoot a .22.
Well, would you dress them or would they?
Oh yeah, we'd cook the rabbits and eat them. Oh yeah, oh yeah. And we'd catch little fish in the creek and we'd eat them, yeah.
Turtles?
No, not turtle.
Were there any home remedies that come to mind? Like if something like bee stung or something like that, did you have home remedies?
Oh, Mom had Vicks for a cold, and I know one time we had something and we had to wear a string around our neck with this little bead of, it was called asphodity. Did you ever hear that? I've never heard of it since, but that's what it was called, asphodity, and it was kind of like glue stuff, and she'd mash that around that string, and we had to wear that around our neck for a day or two to get over this cold or whatever. And I don't remember, we never run to the doctor like the people do now, you know, and I don't either. I don't take any medicine. I don't take any pills. I tell them that's one reason I'm healthy. I don't take any pills.
Not even blood pressure medicine?
Oh, no. And I was taking calcium. My doctor, quite a while ago, had me on calcium. But my new doctor, she didn't think much about calcium. And my test was I didn't need calcium. And I was a little low on sodium was what she came up with the last time she took my. And no, I've never had any trouble with blood pressure or anything like that. And I've never been sick, but I did crack 3 ribs. One day my daughter and her husband was here from Plano, Texas. They were getting ready to go home, and my recorder was acting up, and it's right there. And so my her husband, my son-in-law, was standing there fixing that, and I said, maybe you need more light. And I jumped up here on this footstool to pull that cord, up there, to make more light. Someone had turned it off. And when I did, I fell back and hit my back against this chair. This is a recliner. But anyway, it was out like this. I hit my back and I cracked 3 ribs.
Wow.
And they said, are you hurt? Well, no, I wasn't hurt, And so they fooled around here a little bit, and finally they left, and I was in changing beds, and I was tired, so I put my pajamas on, and about that time, it hit me. My back, I thought I could die. It hurts bad, and I called my friend right over here that's a nurse. I said, Kathy, do you have anything any stronger than an aspirin? I failed. She said, I'll be there in a minute. And she was. And when she came in, I was standing there. I couldn't move. I was standing there. So they got me at the hospital and x-rayed, and I slept in this chair for about, my daughter, she was on her way home. But she came back because my other daughter was working at that time. She's now retired, but and so my daughter in Plano wasn't working. She never worked. Well, she did work a little bit at the school when her kids were little, when they had to go to, they lived in Houston. Anyway, I could not get in the bed. I could, with pillows in this chair, I could get up, but boy, when I was getting up, it just killed me. And then I could walk and go to the bathroom, but when I came back, it hurt when I sat down. But I could get comfortable with pillows with my feet up, and this is where I slept for 3 weeks till that healed. And that's all I've had wrong with me that I can think of.
That's amazing, really. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Been a good long life
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you want to add before we close?
Oh, I don't know. This is the way I run on when I did that interview for that cookbook.
Well,
that quilt book.
when history's written about you, what do you want it to say? How do you want to be remembered?
Well, now, how would I? I don't really know.
As a happy-go-lucky?
I guess. I've got a lot of friends.
A good friend?
We play this, what's called Rummage Cube. At night, they play here, and I've got this big table, and I made a deal around it out of slick stuff, you slide the dominoes on to protect the
vinyl.
table. My table is over 100 years old. It's in my china cabinet there. I've got dishes in there in the bottom, and my TV in the top. I took out the top shelf and put my TV in there when I moved here, and I've got a big, to go with it, a big
buffet?
Yeah, and it's in my bedroom. And this 3-piece set is over 100 years old.
Wow.
My son wants it when I'm through with it.
Nice.
But we play games. This bunch likes to play games, and every Friday we have potluck. That's when I get up and make my pie. And
you go to the gym 3 times a week?
yeah.
3 times a week?
Yeah.
And what do you do at the gym?
Well, we have the ball, and we have the band, and they have weights, and we just kind of dance around. We have a chair, and we're on our feet though. It just lasts 45 minutes, and but we get a pretty good workout.
Yeah. Get you out of the house.
And upstairs, I have the machines, and I go up and I do my feet this way and push this way, on that, whatever that is. And they have a place to walk, and I like to walk. I walked 3 times around it this morning because I was a little later than usual. And one thing, I never look like anything when I get there, but I am on time. I learned that from my little cousin. They lived in a field over here in the tent, and from my house I'd have to go to the corner, the roads, you know, or I could cut through the field, cut this part off to go to school, so it wasn't so far. And they lived there for a while. He was out of work, and so anyway, she was about 5 or 6. She just starting school, you know. And so I go by and pick her up. And one morning when we got over here to this fence, I noticed she didn't have any pants on. Oh, and so I had to take her back to get her pants. And by the time I got to school, I was late. And I was embarrassed. Oh, that just killed me to be late at school. And so after then, I thought, by golly, I'll never be late anywhere else. And I don't like to be late at church. A lot of people come in late at church. I think that's so, you know, I don't like that. But I've always gone to church. And this lady moved in when my husband came back. We bought this house in Crescent Hill. This lady lived over here, and she said, let's study the Bible. And at that time, I was listening to the radio. We didn't have TV then. And some guy talking about, you know, and all he was talking about was money. But I thought he was great, you know. I thought he was. And so when she said, let's study the Bible, I thought, you're not going to make a Camelot out of me. And so anyway, here she'd come, and she'd ask me things, and I was Baptist at that time, and I couldn't answer it. And so she'd go home and she'd say, okay, I'll be back tomorrow, and you can answer my questions. So man, I dug that Bible, and I really showed myself. If you read the Bible and go by the Bible, you're right. That's the best thing you can do, is just really study it. And a lot of times you can just read the Bible, but you need to study it and know how to study the Bible, because there's different places, you know. But any of it, all of it is when you're baptized to Christ, you know. That's what God says, your baptism. And my sister still at this, you know, well, I was baptized, but she wasn't baptized like the Bible says. So that's, and my daughters, both my daughters have been baptized. My granddaughter was baptized. I'm working on my son. He lives out here east of Edmond on an acreage. He'll be 57 the same day I'm 98. When he came, I went to the hospital, but the little nurse said, I said, this is my birthday. She said, oh, did you take some oil or something to make this baby come on your birthday? I said, Lens, no, I didn't know you could.
Born on your birthday.
I was thinking now before you came, I'm not going to tell everything that sounds silly. I get started, I don't know when to quit.
Yeah, we've covered a lot. We can quit.
Well, anyway.
Being a Rosie was a big deal at the time.
Yeah, it really was. And before that was built, I was with some friends. When I lived in the country and I was born, she was born. She lived up the way from me about a quarter of a mile, and the doctor delivered her. Her name was Ernestine something. Anyway, the doctor had just got back to town when Mom called, and he had to come deliver me, so that we were that close. Well, anyway, one day his parents, and I was just a little kid, but I remember this, but I was just really so little, was all driving around out there, and he said, someday they're going to build a big airplane factory here. At that time it was just level and just trees and, you know. And then boom, all of a sudden it happened.
Mm.
And there I was working in it. I thought that was funny.
Putting on the left wing
Yeah,
of.
yeah. I was good with that rivet gun.
Mm.
Yeah, and one day I took the flu. At that time, when I was born, Mom had the flu, and the doctor came out, and the north wind was blowing, and he said, that wasn't the day I was born. He came out afterwards for her, I think. She couldn't talk because she had such bad, deep cold. And they thought she was going to die because she was so bad. Mm. But she made it. She prayed God to save her to raise her kids, you know, till they got grown. Mm. And I forgot what I was going to tell you when I started all through that. I don't know. I never.
That's okay. Well, were you working at Douglas when Roosevelt died? It's like in 1945.
Well, was it 45 when he died?
Yeah, in April of 45.
Well, yeah, I guess I was,
You remember? And someone said a tornado came through that same day. Does that ring any bells?
Well, I don't think it did on us. We lived there off Tyson.
I don't. I haven't looked to see either.
Oh.
Were you a fan of Roosevelt?
Oh, well, I thought he was a good president. You know, I didn't have anything against him. Boy, they're having a mess now, aren't they?
They are. That's a topic for a different day, isn't it?
Oh, man. I thought of something I was going to tell you, but I don't know what it was.
Well, you can always add it later.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we'll say thank you for speaking with me today. It's been fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's been good.
Mm-hmm.